Acting Speaker.
Member for Scarborough.
My grievance today is to the Minister for Prevention of Family and Domestic Violence. Thank you, Minister, for taking the time to receive and consider this grievance. I first want to acknowledge the Minister and thank her for her hard work to tackle the scourge of family domestic violence and for the opportunity to be involved in the 16 Days in WA campaign last year with its focus on engaging boys and men. A national study including research by WA Professor Donna Chung from Curtin University shows that 96.8% of violent partners reported by women were male, highlighting the overwhelmingly gendered nature of family and domestic violence. Your recognition that men must be part of the solution is critical, and I commit to play my part every day, not just during 16 Days in WA. I am bringing this grievance forward to address a clear and pressing need within my community. In my life, I have been exposed to coercive control and family and domestic violence, and through that lived experience, I understand what a scourge it is on our community. I have also witnessed the impacts of family and domestic violence within my own community. During 2 ride-alongs with Scarborough Police in my last term, FDV incidents were a prominent part of their workload. I observed firsthand the complexity of these situations, as well as the professionalism and the effectiveness with which officers de-escalated high-risk and volatile scenarios. Their work is both challenging and commendable. In addition, I have seen the downstream impacts within our local schools. Principals and staff are often interacting with complex family arrangements, including custody disputes and managing violence restraining orders. Their work, carried out with professionalism and care, plays an important role in supporting students and maintaining safe school communities. Addressing family and domestic violence demands a whole of community effort across government, institutions and society as a whole, all levels of our society, all levels of government. And to that end, I would like to acknowledge the leadership of the City of Stirling, including Mayor Mark Irwin, Director of Community Services Michael Quirk and their team. The City of Stirling is currently the only local government in Western Australia to have stepped up and delivered a women's refuge for those fleeing family and domestic violence. At a time where other local governments have stepped back from such responsibility, their leadership is commendable. I was also grateful to be invited to join you, Minister, to see the Department of Community's temporary refuge that supports my community. The refurbished temporary premises will provide refuge for up to 5 women and children while the new Stirling Women's Refuge is constructed. The new Stirling Women's Refuge will increase capacity to 16 units and is a significant and welcome investment for the northern suburbs, and I strongly support its delivery. However, I wish to highlight what I see as a critical service gap within my community. Scarborough is the 3rd highest density suburb in Western Australia, with Doubleview and Innaloo also in the top 5. There is a significant demand for FDV support services within my community, reflected in the number of residents who seek assistance through my office. While the new Stirling Women's Refuge is an important initiative, the City of Stirling spans 16 suburbs across a large portion of Perth's inner and northern corridor, and there remains a clear need for accessible, localised support services and refuge for women in the Scarborough community and surrounding communities. Accordingly, I ask you, Minister, to consider what additional measures the government can invest in to support women fleeing family and domestic violence within my community. I also strongly advocate for a permanent dedicated facility in the Scarborough electorate to better service my local and surrounding communities. Thank you again for your consideration of this matter and for your continued leadership in addressing family and domestic violence in Western Australia.
Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. Can I thank the member for his grievance today and for raising the issue again of family and domestic violence in the Scarborough area? Member, I would also like to thank you not only for your ongoing advocacy around family and domestic violence, but for your contribution during last year's 16 Days in WA campaign, and in particular your participation in our Men and Boys Roundtable. The facilitator of that roundtable, as you know, was Turung Chawla, and he said that the members' contribution was invaluable and encouraged the young men in the room to open up. So thank you for participating wholeheartedly and for sharing your experiences not only in that room but here with us today. I'm also pleased to see the member for Scarborough continue his strong advocacy for his community. As you are aware, Acting Speaker, building safe and inclusive communities is a priority of the Cook Labor government. As the Minister for the Prevention of Family and Domestic Violence, I acknowledge that Western Australia still has some way to go in ending the scourge of violence in our society. one woman or one child being injured or murdered is one too many. Our government was the first in Western Australia to appoint a Minister for the Prevention of Family and Domestic Violence, and I'm really proud to have followed Minister McGurk and Minister Winton in holding this important role. Member, as you are aware, since 2017, we've invested $707.6 million of new funding to raise awareness, support victims and hold perpetrators to account. This includes a $110 million package announced during last year's 16 Days in WA campaign. As part of this commitment, $14.8 million has been allocated to expand access to crisis accommodation for victim survivors, as well as $34.9 million to expand our family and domestic violence response team, enabling the metropolitan units to operate 7 days a week in line with regional teams and provide additional staff. Member, if you haven't been down and seen the FDVRT, these people do some amazing work. They have teams in there from police, from communities, from adult community corrections and from our sector, and they work on a whole of family response to family and domestic violence. A further $45.8 million will strengthen our system-wide response to family and domestic violence. Member, this is a really important part of what we are doing. During the FDV roundtable that we held a number of years ago, and from my interactions with the sector advocates and victim survivors, they are clear that the system needed to change. So this system-wide response to family and domestic violence is encapsulated in the system reform plan, which we are currently delivering. This includes the Safe at Home program, our coercive control training for first responders, and our behaviour change programs for FDV perpetrators. Another $14.4 million will go towards continuing priority initiatives supporting FDV victim survivors, including counselling and therapeutic services, including, member, for children. This is one of the first times that we have had dedicated resources that understand that children are victims in their own right and they are not simply witnesses to their mother or other family and domestic violence happening in the home. Western Australia currently provides 315 crisis accommodation rooms or units with a number of beds in each of these rooms on any given night around the state. I'd like to point out that since 2017, our government has increased the capacity of refuge units by 91 units, with our latest commitments, including the Stirling Refuge commitments, taking the number in the pipeline to 102. Acting Speaker, this represents a 41% increase in the number of units that we provide in this state since we came into government. The 102 units include the $22.6 million redevelopment of the Stirling Women's Refuge that you mentioned, member, which will deliver an additional 16 units. And I would also like to join you in commending the City of Stirling, not only for being the only local government area to be delivering services for crisis accommodation, but for their advocacy in this space when they identified a growing need in the area and advocating for this expansion along with yourself and other members. Once this facility is built, the service will while this facility is being built, this service will temporarily relocate to the site that you and I visited in your electorate. On the issue of additional support for women and children fleeing violence, I agree with you, member. Every avenue should be explored to provide additional refuge capacity around the state, including making the temporary site a permanent refuge. I will continue to work with you and my Cabinet colleagues on this matter, and I note that the state government also funds the following services that are available in your area. The Safe at Home service, which is again operated by the City of Stirling, the Family Abuse Advocacy Support Team, which provides family and domestic violence counselling, the City of Stirling Family and Domestic Violence One-Stop Hub, which I visited last year. It is an amazing hub, and for yourself or any other members who are dealing with victim survivors, it is definitely a good place to start for support. The Pat Giles Family and Domestic Violence Coordinated Response Service and the Isha Multicultural Women's Health Services. The Isha Multicultural Women's Health Services do an amazing job not only in your electorate but across the City of Stirling and wider to provide really targeted support to women of multicultural backgrounds. I really want to thank you, Member, for your ongoing advocacy in this area. I sincerely look forward to working with you to deliver for your community and for the women and children of Western Australia. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Governor